it is really wonderful. And her comfort and insight and knowledge working with the faith community, I think, is quite apparent to you today. So we have a great partnership ahead of us. We've celebrated 20 years of environmental justice. About a little longer than that, 22, 23 years ago, EPA began ENGERGY STAR. The idea was to create a brand, because some of us had worked with electric utilities and over the year with DOE and city and state energy offices, and great programs came and went. And at utilities, if they made the mistake of investing in too much power plant, then they had to sell the energy, and the economics from their point of view for efficiency was not good, not to mention renewables. So the idea was to embed in the marketplace and to actually start achieving market transformation behind a reliable brand that would be there, started with ENGERGY STAR. I don't think you can see in the far left corner, that's the Good Housekeeping seal, the venerable Good Housekeeping seal. And today, at the same level of public recognition of about 92% is ENGERGY STAR. We've done this working with manufacturers and home builders and the managers and owners and operators of worship facilities and churches, schools, hospitals, all kinds of buildings. Not to mention, we help people in their homes too. When Administrator McCarthy was getting a few questions earlier, I was in the back wanting to raise my hand because we have a lot of answers. We have a lot of success with market transformation. In our history of about 22 years, and I know 1 million metric tons of carbon equivalent may not roll off the tongue, but it's the equivalent of about 18 million homes energy use, 25 million passenger vehicles, or 33 coal-fired plants that we have prevented with energy efficiency, working with the American public in their homes and businesses, the place we work and play and worship. We're adding to that about 12% every year. Now, it's hard to get a good count on worship facilities in the U.S. A conservative number is about 370,000. If they achieve President Obama's goal of 20% savings by 2020 in our buildings, that would put about 630 million back into your ministries and your missions. You're leaving that money on the table today, or paying it to the utility. At 30% savings, which ENGERGY STAR has actually demonstrated over this 20-some year period, it's more like $1 billion that you could recoup and put back into your priorities. ENGERGY STAR, day in, day out, we have people who are experts in lighting, heating, air conditioning, commercial food service equipment, how buildings operate, how to do things best in buildings cost effectively. And what you see illustrated here is the differences in basic energy use among small and medium houses of worship, 1 to 800 seats, large houses of worship, and mega houses of worship. It varies. You can just see, the color bands as to cooking, lighting, heating, air conditioning. Of course, it depends on what part of the country you're in. We have, with tens of thousands of partners, figured out over the years an approach to strategic energy management that we know works because it's saving money and preventing pollution. We have 22,000 buildings that have earned the ENGERGY STAR, meaning that they've saved about 35% on their energy cost, and depending on the emissions of the utility, they could be reducing greenhouse gas emissions 35%. So you have a sheet of paper that looks something like this. It's the executive summary for the new website and the new workbook that Administrator McCarthy mentioned. Not to read this, you'll just see simple outlines. You'll learn about finance, questions about finance, what your members of your congregation can do in their homes, in their businesses. That's all at ENGERGY STAR. We have about 1,500 congregations. That's we got 370,000 to go nearly. You know, there's a lot to be done. Twice that many are actually using our software tool. So they're finding great value in benchmarking their greenhouse gas emissions and dollar savings. One of our speakers, our next speaker, in fact, will represent the first mosque in the United States to earn the ENGERGY STAR. Okay. So with that, I will introduce our first panelist. Each panelist will take about 5 minutes and provide an overview of their work, and then we will have a discussion with some questions. Mr. Loay Assaf is the Chief Operating Officer of the Islamic Society of Boston Cultural Center. It's the largest Islamic cultural center in the Northeast, and prior to that, Mr. Assaf established and headed the fund development department at the mosque, securing annual revenues of $1.5 million. He's a member of the Muslim American Society's National Executive Council and established their national membership department, which he leads. I thought it was also very interesting that he has a degree in electrical engineering and is a project management professional. Mr. Assaf.
Thank you. So I would like to start by saying peace and greetings be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'm so glad, I'm so happy to be here with you, this huge congregation, mix of people who share one thing, a cause that will affect, and it does affect every one of us. And this topic of being steward on earth is very important because it takes me personally and pretty much all of the Muslim community back, way back, when God created the heavens and earth, when he decorated the heavens with the cosmos and the constellations, and decorated earth with all of the beauty. And God told the angels that I'm appointing a vicegerent to take care of business. That's us. This is our role. We are appointed to run the business. The question is, are we doing good? Because at the end of the year, there is performance evaluation, right? And there might be bonuses and we get rewarded, or maybe punishment and get fired. Literally fired, like grilled, God forbid. It's a waking call. It's a wake-up call for all of us. And God entrusted us, the human being, to take care of his creation. And it's not just because, you know, we're reacting to a disaster happening. We should be more proactive. And it's not because we're having people getting sick. It's not just because the economy is going down. It goes even beyond this. It's a moral, it's a behavioral commitment. It's our job description to begin with. And that's why you see in the Holy Quran, God will describe himself and describe the whole, kind of summarize the whole assignment. And please allow me to recite a few verses and I will translate. There is a chapter in the Quran called the Merciful, Ar-Rahman. And God is talking about himself and his creations and talking about our job toward his creation. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahman, 'allama al-Qur'an, khalaqa al-insana 'allamahu al-bayan. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. And translation goes as this, and it's very simple. The most merciful. He's the one who taught the Quran. He's the one who created man. He's the one who taught man to be eloquent. He's the one who created the sun, the moon, and make them move in a prescribed calculation. He's the one who created the little bushes and the tall trees and made them bow and obey his will. He's the one who brought up the heavens and raised them. He's the one who imposed balance. And he's the one who wanted us to maintain this balance. And he's the one who is forcing us and asking us and ordering us not to disinfect or offset this balance. And that's why he created the humans. And that's why we're here. And that's why this topic is so critical. He goes on and describes other creations. And at the end, a question is posed to all of humanity. So after you're hearing all of this, which of your God's favors you would deny? And this question is posed to you and everybody who listens. And I ask God to guide all of us so we are not denial of any of his bounties, and we are stepping up to take our responsibilities and be serious in our business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Loay. Our next speaker is Dr. Carol Baltimore, the 19th President and CEO of the Progressive National Baptist Convention. He's also Senior Pastor of International Community Baptist Churches USA in the Philippines. Dr. Baltimore serves also as the Vice Chair of the Baptist Joint Committee on Religious Liberty, is a board member of the National Council of Churches of Christ in the USA, the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, Sunday of Hope Advisory Board, and the School of Theology and Ministry, Christian Circle of Peace, Seattle University. He served on many boards and most recently, and have been president of Bethany House, a safe place for abused women. Dr. Baltimore.
My colleague helped me out by standing here because it feels like a pulpit.
Amen.
Our topic of this panel is pulpit leaders taking action on climate. And with that in mind, I want to go by a scriptural text that out of my own traditional belief that guides a lot of my thoughts when it comes to environmental issues, social justice issues, for which Progressive Convention is known for, being the denominational home of Dr. Martin Luther King. A question is raised, is it nothing to you all who pass by, behold, and see if there is any sorrow like my sorrow? And I feel that's the question that the earth is asking all of us in this day and time. Do you see my sorrow? Do you feel my pain? And I feel that as people of faith, that's what we need to provide the answers for. And there are measurable benchmarks that all of us can plug in to provide answers to this. Climate justice is a moral issue, as has already been said. It is about a moral fight for the very survival of all humanity We talk much about what is happening here in the U.S., even the food supply, the economic crisis, the health disparities, disproportionately affecting people of color. But in reality, it affects the entire globe. And we are partners together, and it touches all of us. I come to this topic, it's very passionate in my being, because not only is President progressive, but I preside over 23 churches as the president and presider in the Philippines. And I was in the Philippines when that last storm devastated the central part of that country. And I've seen the shift that have taken place because of climate change over the last 5 years alone. We've had to rebuild all of our infrastructure. Last year, 2013, before this storm hit, 5 separate times, our schools, our churches, we've lost a third of our population there to death because of climate change, health disparities. Now, in Progressive in 2009, we were engaged in workshops across our denomination, provide going green, urging our church to go green and put it in solar panels, winterization, energy-saving bulbs to reduce energy costs in greenhouses, out of which one of our churches right here in D.C. Went all solar, the Florida Avenue Baptist Church. In 2011, we enacted a resolution and passed it dealing with climate justice and environmental justice that dealt with the disparity of the whole crisis affecting people of color, the health issues, the economic issues, and sent that to Congress. On Earth Day, we've sent letters across our nation. A number of our pastors have been engaged in around Earth Day and that whole week of celebration, teaching and preaching sermons dealing with the importance of creation, Bible study, enact measures to save the earth. In Haiti, we've been involved in tree planting projects, which helps with the whole climate change issue there. The youth in our convention last year adopted a program, plant a tree in every city that we hold our annual sessions, because to show an impact of the climate change on humanity. In the Philippines, we're involved in a coalition of government leaders, educators, scientists, and faith leaders dealing with organic farming and providing sustainable food supplies. And there again, that's because of the shortages happening now in southern Mindanao. There are measurable benchmarks that we all can be engaged in as faith leaders.
Thank you, Dr. Baltimore. Our next speaker is Mr. Arjun Bhargava, who's an Associate Project Director with Hindu American Seva Communities. He also serves on the editorial board of WH2O, the Journal of Gender and Water, and as a lead editor with the same journal. He has interned with United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and was interned to UNEP's Special Advisor and Focal Point for Sustainable Development Goals. Arjun graduated from Drexel University with a BS in Biological Sciences and most recently with a Master of Environmental Studies from the University of Pennsylvania, where he majored in environmental policy. In April 2013, he was awarded University of Pennsylvania's Institute for Environmental Studies Award for Excellence in Environmental Studies. Arjun?
Namaste and good afternoon. I want to thank CEQ and Jerry for inviting me as a representative of Hindu American Seva Communities here today. I feel privileged to be a part of this distinguished panel of leaders, Reverend Bingham, Reverend Hess Cox, Dr. Baltimore, and Mr. Assaf. Our Hindu faith and tradition complements President Obama's vision and action plan. Science helps us discover truth, and a foundational tenet of Hinduism is to seek out the fundamental truth. Our HASC board member and scholar, Dr. Ved Chaudhary, explains the truth from our scripture, the Ishopanishad, The Almighty is omnipresent in the universe, including planet Earth, in the oceans, rivers, forests, mountains. Take only what you need from the bounties of planet Earth. Sacrifice greed so that everyone's needs are met. Do not plunder, do not hoard. Whose property is it after all? It all belongs to God. At the Parliament of World Religions 2009 meeting, Hindu spiritual leaders highlighted how our scriptures guide us to act on climate change, and they signed the Hindu Declaration on Climate Change. They said we can and should take the lead in an earth-friendly living, personal frugality, lower power consumption, alternative energy, sustainable food production, and vegetarianism, as well as in evolving technologies that positively address our shared plight. End of quote. Across the nation, we see Hindu American communities imbibing and acting on their dharmic values, and we are in various stages of addressing the impact of climate change in our temples, on college campuses, and in our homes. Many examples abound, and I'll share a few. We at HASC have generated awareness by creating outreach material and are developing educational programs to help temples and our community implement energy efficiency in small and large ways. Our project director, Dr. Pankaj Jain at the University of North Texas, and I have developed briefs that highlight environmental initiatives from temples in India and the United States. These briefs include the significant afforestation and solar cooking efforts, as well as wind energy renewable efforts led by one of the most revered Hindu temples in the world, the Tirupati temple in India. We also shared EPA ENGERGY STAR congregation case studies, which Jerry highlighted a bit earlier. Though these have been helpful to temples, no Hindu or Jain temple has been certified ENGERGY STAR. Jerry and I are in the final stages of producing a joint HASC and ENGERGY STAR document and flyer. This will be focused on energy efficiency from a Hindu faith perspective and will help temples understand the tools that the federal government provides. Jerry, thank you for your extraordinary support to us. Following the tenets of our dharma and religious teachings, we find nationally many faith organizations and temples are working on energy and environmental initiatives and are at different stages of their implementation. The Bap's Temple in Chino Hills, California, generates 597 kilowatts of clean energy annually by their state-of-the-art solar panel system. I also recently learned about 4 temples in Maryland who are working with ESI and are in their early stages in taking action to transition to energy efficiency. Their actions will result in approximately 35% lower electricity consumption, 35% lower associated carbon dioxide emission reduction, and 15% greenhouse gas reduction from a switch to natural gas from diesel-powered backup systems. Temples such as the Fremont Hindu Temple in California, the Sai Sharan in Florida, and the Siva Vishnu Temple in Maryland have transitioned to eco-friendly products that they use in their temples, as well as waste management. One of our youth green team partners at the Sanatan Temple in Parsippany, New Jersey, a group of 7th graders, are working to reduce styrofoam usage with biodegradable products. Starting from April 2014, the Sadhana Coalition will help a large portion of Jamaica Bay in New York every month with volunteers from local temples to clean the beaches. A food and agriculture organization FAO report found that farms breeding chickens, pigs, and cows for meat and dairy products produce 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. I can say with certainty that all Hindu and Jain temples promote a vegetarian, plant-based diet. and we're working with our partners at the Humane Society to promote ahimsa, non-violence, by preventing animal cruelty and promoting Meatless Monday. We have also developed an educational program, Utsav Seva, or Festivals of Science, that embed environment awareness, which we call eco-dharmic consciousness, in all our major religious festivities, and are partnering with college administrations and Hindu chaplains. Princeton University, just last week, organized an educational event to celebrate Hindu Environment Week, and the Bhumi Project of Oxford University is actively engaged in many parts of the world. I would like to end by sharing a success story with you this afternoon. Because of our director, Dr. Jain's recommendations, the Dallas-Fort Worth Temple, the largest Hindu temple in the North Texas area, was able to save $23,000 in savings a year with its switch to energy-efficient equipment. This compared to $91,200 per year, which they had accrued, which they would spend on energy. changing on energy-saving light fixtures, and replacing all HVAC units with the help of a matching grant is helping them achieve their projected return on investment in less than 4 years. Another team member, Joe Otterbein, a student at the University of North Texas, has also helped initiate energy efficiency efforts at Jain temples in the region. We at HASC are now working towards preparing a comprehensive greening temples guide to share with Hindu and Jain temples, and I can make a firm commitment to you, Jerry, and to all of you, to include the element of the President's action plan to share with temples. I have learned so much from all of you, as well as previous speakers, in your presentations today, and I will work to reflect your lessons in our future work. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. Our next speaker is the Reverend Canon Sally Grover Bingham, an Episcopal priest for the, I'm Episcopalian, I can't say it. An Episcopal priest and canon for the environment in the Diocese of California. She was one of the first faith leaders to fully recognize the changing climate as a moral and religious issue. She is founder and president of the Regeneration Project and its Interfaith Power and Light campaign, which currently has 15,000 congregation members in 40 states. Reverend Bingham serves as on the National Board of the Environmental Defense Fund and the Advisory Council of both the Union of Concerned Scientists and Climate One. She's received many awards, including in 2012, the Rachel Carson Women in Conservation Award from the Audubon Society. Reverend Bingham is the lead author of Love God, Heal Earth, a collection of 21 essays on environment. Sally?
Thank you so much, Jerry, for having me here. It's a long trip from California, but well worth it. And I really like looking out there and seeing so many friends and colleagues, and particularly the folks from Interfaith Power and Light programs around the country. We have our people here from a local person from DC. We have people from Illinois, from Texas, from Massachusetts, and from North Carolina, Texas too. And Gerald Durley, I want to remind everyone, Gerald is on our national board and comes to San Francisco to our meetings, so we are strong colleagues in this movement. As Jerry said, I am an Episcopal priest, and I can say that most, but not all, Episcopalians believe that we are the stewards of creation, and we pray on a very regular basis for a reverence for the earth. And at the head of our church, our presiding bishop, Catherine Jefferts Shorey, has a master's degree in oceanography. She's well-informed and active in promoting the climate protection. But I'm not here today to represent the Episcopal Church, but rather the Interfaith Power and Light campaign, which is the focus of the nonprofit that I founded in 1997, the Regeneration Project. We are a national organization with affiliated programs in 40 states, and we're working entirely on climate change. We are interreligious. We have Christian, Jewish, Muslim leaders of our state programs. We have Baha'is, Hindus, Buddhists, and even a Jain society involved in our work. Our goal is to have the congregations that we reach, and Jerry mentioned we've reached 15,000 congregations now, and the goal is for those congregations to reduce their carbon emissions and serve as examples not only to the people who come into the congregation, but serve as an example to the community at large. Why does that congregation have solar on the roof? Get the curiosity of the community up so that they will experiment with these things in their own homes. Through our Cool Congregation program, we offer financial prizes and recognition to congregations that demonstrate green leadership, who have retrofitted their buildings using energy efficiency and conservation. It's not only an inspiration for the congregation to win a cash prize, but it's a way for us to track the carbon reductions on an annual basis. Our challenge for the Cool Congregation program happens every year. In California alone, which is the state interfaith power and light that I'm the most familiar with, we have 603 congregations and have reduced carbon emissions by 144 million pounds over the last decade and 27 million pounds just in the last year. We're getting better at implementing energy efficiency and tracking the results. More congregations are participating as well. ENGERGY STAR for congregations and Jerry Lawson have helped us, and many of our congregations are ENGERGY STAR congregations. We are also working with the United States Green Building Council to get their experts and engineers into our congregation facilities and to help us green them. Each year, over Valentine's Day weekend, we organize a national preach-in, and each year more and more congregations participate. So just 2 weeks ago, 1,700 clergy spoke from the pulpit about climate change. We provided sample sermons in all denominations, inserts for bulletins, and the film Chasing Ice came along in your packet, and it could be screened at the convenience of the congregation. And this year, the theme of the preach-in was in response to the President's call for action and for support of the EPA's carbon rules for coal plants. The Valentines that were passed out and then sent to senators are these. And on the front it says, "I'm doing my part for future generations. Will you do yours?" 50,000 of these Valentines were sent to senators, and I brought a few extra if you'd like to send them in to your senators. That's up from 37,000 that were sent in last year. And our website is receiving comments in support of the Clean Air Act and the new carbon rules. So far, the Interfaith Power and Light community has 10,000 comments from our members. And in partnership with the Climate Action Campaign, we are working in Virginia, Ohio, and North Carolina to further promote the awareness of climate change. Every state where EPA had hearings, we sent religious leaders. I'm going to end. I see my signal. In all of the states where there were hearings, we had religious leaders show up. We are bringing a moral authority, which is fundamental to the success of any climate or any cultural change in this country. In the big picture, we see our response to climate change as a reflection of our relationship with God. Do we love God enough to protect God's creation? Do we love each other enough to plan for a safe and healthy future for generations that come after us? Thank you very much.
Providing a strong finish of our overview statements, next is the Reverend Mitch Hescox, President of the Evangelical Environmental Network. He's published numerous articles and contributed to the book Sacred Acts, How Churches Are Working Together to Protect Earth's Climate. He's testified before Congress, appeared on CNN, NPR, Public Radio International, and numerous radio programs, both Christian and secular. Mitch led EEN, the Evangelical Environmental Network, to successful championing of the mercury and air toxic standards at EPA, and guided the EEN team to acquire over 200,000 comments from the evangelical community for various rules and regulations at EPA. Mitch pastored a local church for 18 years before the call to a ministry for the environment. And I might add, he previously worked in the coal and utility industry.
The insider.
Oh, good morning, everyone. And Sally happened to remind me that something that my colleague said all along is that, you know, for being in the coal industry for 14 years, this is my penance job. And I know that you are paying penance all morning long by sitting down. So if you want to stand up and stretch while I talk for a minute, you have my permission to do so, to stand up, to relax, to be in God's people together. Because, it's okay. I'm not mind. I often stand around and preach. In fact, if I was at home preaching or someplace, I'd be out there in the crowd. But I'd like to share with you something this morning just very briefly because I only have 3 minutes to preach. And it's something that all of our communities share together. No matter if we're evangelical Christians like me, or people from Islam, the Muslim tradition, or Hindu, or mainline, or Catholic. All of our faith traditions, I can guarantee, have one common thing, and that's hope.
Yes.
We are the conveyors of hope. And I think our world needs hope more than anything else right now.
That's right.
Gina McCarthy almost stole my sermon, so that's why I said preach it earlier, because she did. And really the idea is that, those of us who've been in the climate change business for a while, and I've only been in it for, going on 6 years, we've been doing a pretty good job of telling all the problems, all the bad things that are going to happen with climate change. And make no mistake, there are going to be bad things that can happen. Water, floods, people being forced to move. But the downside of it only motivates people so long. And I think it's time for a fresh vision. And for me, it's our values that determine who we are and how we convey that. I believe in the Christian scriptures teach us about abundant life. Very similar to what our Declaration of Independence says, that we are called to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. So I'd like to ask you just to take 10 seconds, 15 seconds, to close your eyes and dream what your dream is for the future. My dream is a place where children don't have brain damage from foul water and foul air. From the earth is truly clean. Where my kids and my grandkids can come and visit me and have the time because they have good paying jobs. That they drive up in hybrid or electric cars or use public transportation. There's a whole way of doing things that is different and new. See, that's my dream, and it's a dream of hope. And I think it's the hope that we have to be in this together for. And to do it, we have to come together as a people, as a society to do it. We the people, our preamble to our Constitution says. We come together. And one of the great things our Constitution does is it sort of sets the ground forward. It sets the place where we're supposed to be, the place where we are supposed to be. President Obama said it last week in the truck standard thing, we got to set the goal high. I think that's the job of government, to set the goal high so that we as a people and industry and businesses can figure out how to do it. That we can have a level playing field for all energy and all hope. People are confused right now. They have enough stuff that is negative on their minds. And I think we've got to start talking in hope and to be real. And I know some of you are saying that, this is pie in the sky. We're not going to have better jobs or cleaner air. Well, there's two little things from our past that I'd like to share with you. One negative, one you can think about. In the 1860s, late 1860s, Alexander Graham Bell offered Western Union the opportunity to buy the telephone for $100,000. And they said, nah, it's just an electric toy that nobody will ever use. I think there's a slight difference between AT&T today and Western Union. But even more importantly, at the turn of the 19th to 20th century, the third largest industry in the United States was, anybody want to guess? Horses. And nobody said the car would ever replace the horse because there were no roads, no gas stations, no new infrastructure. or we changed from horses to where cars literally drive America today. So I'd like to suggest to you that we have a hope based on our values. I am not an environmentalist. I'm an evangelical Christian who believes that creation care is a matter of life. And with that, I'll end. Thank you.
Well, I'll just, for everyone, thank the panel for your overview comments. And now I'd like to pose a few discussion questions, and we'll ask anyone on the panel who would like to comment to do so. In a given faith community, there may be a diversity of opinion or level of engagement regarding faith-based environmental stewardship, in fact, on the reality of climate change. How would you characterize the current status of understanding of this basic science and engagement in personal action on climate change within your faith community? Mitch, I'll start with you.
Sure, ask me the tough one. You know, I think the beginning point is for us and for all of us is actually science is the wrong place to start. It's with our values. I mean, 26% of America are evangelicals. And right now, the statistics say that 42% of American Christians really believe in creationism. So that sets up automatically a polarization between science and the world. And so I think what we have to start doing is talking about those values that are meaningful. And I mean, that's our message. That's how we help to generate those, 100,000 comments for carbon, is talking about it in terms of human life and health. And yes, the science is important, but it's not as important as having those central values to who we are as a people. And I think that's what's unique about all of our communities here. We have to identify those separate and unique values that can be talked to by the authentic messengers of his community, to each community to speak that way.
Thank you. Who else would like to comment?
Actually, I can go. Please. Actually, just building on what Mitch mentioned, talking on behalf of the Muslim community in general, that drive is already there. The belief that we are steward of the earth is there. It just needs to be unleashed. Many people are driven by the fact that, hey, I am here on earth, I have to take care of it. I should not waste, I should not use more what I need. But comes, external forces, the media and the TV, the advertisement, the consumer lifestyle, pushes them and bring this kind of nature innate deeper and deeper and bury it. I think what we're looking for more is bring it up. Show them ways and options. How can this be manifested? How can this be translated into action? And showing examples and giving ideas and educating them about the different options available today in our language.
Loay. Anyone else? Arjun?
From a Hindu faith perspective, I think science and spirituality are integrated in our tradition. We believe we're a natural ally of science, and I can personally tell you that I don't know of anybody who questions climate change from our community, but there may be those who do. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
And I may add too, in which I mentioned that the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church is a scientist. So we don't have the sort of issues with science and religion that you might have in the evangelical community, Mitch, but I totally agree with the idea of starting with common values. I mean, what do we want? What do we all want? We want clean air, clean water, healthy food, and healthy children, and a healthy future. And the things that we would do to alleviate climate change without ever mentioning it are the same things that we need for boosting the economy, creating jobs, and having a healthy future.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah,
Dr.
we
Bolton.
we don't see the conflict between science and what we believe faith-wise. With us, it's more, and as was said earlier in the early panels, with a day-to-day survivalship. And so how we make the connection that we need to lead on environmental stewardship, and that is a moral issue with us because, number one, the text tells us and teaches us that. But secondly, we look at it from the point of view of securing the future for our children. And we make that connection by looking at the health issues. If our children are not healthy, and we see those numbers rising in certain communities, then our legacies cannot continue. And so we must rally around this issue.
Thank you. I'd like to ask, sort of related, what is your sense of the faith communities you serve as to whether the people in their homes and in the house of worship and their businesses, do they make a connection with energy inefficiency and damaging human health? Who'd like to comment first? Anyone?
I will. And there are almost two questions there. Do they make the connection between efficiency and health, or do people who attend a particular house of worship use that house of worship, the facility, as an example for their own homes? Yes, they do. When a religious leader can walk up the aisle or make an announcement that this congregation is saving money on energy and tell them how, people definitely want to go home and do it in their homes. And we've seen that over and over again, where we ask our congregations to serve as an example, not only for the folks that come to that house of worship, but people in the community, with the notion that if you see it done and it works, take it home and do it there too.
Okay.
And I think I would agree with that. And I think one of the real challenges for us is that helping people to get started with the energy efficiency. Ryan Snow I hope is still here from the USGBC, and we mentioned that earlier about Sally did, about working together with the experts. But that health connection is vital. I mean, I think that's how we were able to, along with our Catholic people, really message on the mercury and air toxin standards. And I think on climate changes, when we talk about the primary values of health and life. And remember, for our community, and I think for many communities, it's not about protecting something, because that conveys a future sense. It's a matter about defending them right now. Is that we have to really wake up to that, to call to that, to draw those lines in the sand for us to do those health and to do those powerful issues that really will protect health. And that's the primary connection for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I can go, actually. When it comes to being conscious and aware of and responsible in home or house of worship, or even at business, at work, again, it comes again from inside out. You wanted to implement as a Muslim your duty toward God, toward the environment at large. So, and you wanted to follow the teachings of the Prophet and the tradition itself, in which Muslims will use water to wash in preparation for the prayer. Even with that, do not waste. The Prophet tells the Muslims, don't waste water, even if you're on the bank of a running river. It's a matter of moral. It's a principle. Even if you have abundant resources, it's a matter of principle. No waste. So there you'll find them implement this at home. Turn off the lights. You don't need the room to be lit all night if you're sleeping, for example, or if you're not in that room. It comes kind of by default. It's not so consistent to be like a plan that they need to measure outcome and the CO2 offset and all of this. It's not there. But I think shedding the light from that angle also adds value. And as Karen mentioned, if they see an example, they would like to replicate it. And this is one of the things that we're doing with the Muslim American Society. We had the Islamic Cultural Center in Boston as a pilot project. We've done some improvement, and we're sharing the result with other chapters. We have 40 chapters nationwide, and they're kind of learning from us. And they will take this model and apply it in their localities. And we're doing this and taking it also to the individual who come to attend services. Like close to 3,000, 4,000 people come to receive services through every single week. When they see, and oh my God, I can just, by changing the bulbs, I can save that much at the electric bill at the end of the year. This is awesome. I'd rather make use of this money. And it doesn't cost me much. call your electric company, for example, and have them come and do a quick audit or assessment. It's free. It's available.
Right.
All what it takes is a call. Maybe they are not aware of it. You just need to educate them. So it is more conscious effort and systematic effort. I think that's kind of the piece that's missing.
Yes, thank you.
I would agree with Reverend Bingham and Reverend Hescox, but I think people are generally receptive to the ideas of energy efficiency, but what we ought to do is educate them on the specifics, for example, in the President's Action Plan on climate change, and the figures that are represented there. And we try to accomplish that in different ways, whether it's in the 4 conferences we co-hosted with the White House, and in outreach materials. It could be through ministers in preaching in their sermons, relating faith-based ideas with on energy efficiency, for example, and even temple leaders, Hindu temple leaders, if they can include these issues in their comments with leaders, with their devotees, sorry.
Thank you.
Time's up.
At any given time, I think each of you've cycled through different campaigns and priorities, particularly Mitch and Sally, who've brought in tens of thousands of comments to EPA. So I'd like to ask each of you, going forward the next 6 months, what are your largest priorities, organizationally, goals? And I realize I'm talking to people at a national level and then in a house of worship.
Well, I think, our goals are to very heavily support the President's Climate Action Plan and the carbon rules for carbon pollution, and to message out why that. And I think for us, it's what I said in my comments, it's setting the bar high. We want to see a level playing field when it comes to energy. And I think one of the only policy ways we have doing that at this point in time, are the regulations on carbon plans. There may be other opportunities for other plans, but today we have one way of doing that. And again, we're primarily a market-based people in philosophically, but our playing field is so out of skew by the health impacts, by other impacts of the fossil fuel industry, that I think we see this as a way of setting that bar high, to get those standards up, to get renewables out there, and to really let American consumers pay the true cost of what their energy needs are. And I think that's our goal, is to let people understand that true cost.
And we are going to continue to support the President's plan and also to support the EPA carbon rules. We'll be doing that up until they're out, and we'll fight the opposition if we need to. And then we have a future plan for cool congregations, which is to actually serve as a cool place to be in extreme weather. So we're looking a little bit at the future and adaptation to some of the climate issues and weather patterns that we're seeing, and going to literally have cool congregations and have places where people can go to be cool, and also to be warm in the winter. And we're looking at having our congregations put plug-in stations for electric vehicles. And so we have several things that will be ongoing in the future, but really we want to do what we've been doing more and better. And
Good.
You said 370 congregations, 370,000 congregations to go?
Plus.
Well, we're at 15,000, so it's a tiny piece of the amount of work we have to do. So we'll be fighting. Yeah, keep on keeping on.
Thank you, Sal. Arjun, you want to talk about some of the temples you're working with?
Well, I think provided an overview of Hindu temples exhaustively, but Reverend Bingham, we'd like to support you in your efforts that you're doing in supporting EPA's carbon pollution rules in whatever way we can help to help. I know you provided me with one, and I will take it back to our leadership. But we support fully the President's Action Plan on climate change, just as the previous speakers said. And the commitment that I can make today is that we're working towards preparing the comprehensive greening temples guide, and we will incorporate as many elements as we can in our strategy, in our outreach with temples.
You said 6-month goals. My General Secretary, Kip Banks, is here. Raise your hand. and so I'm putting a lot of weight on him of what I'm going to say. One is, number one, we want to support the President's action plan. The second thing is we want to be able to get 75% of our pastors to preach and teach around messages around Earth Day, our responsibility to the creation. And the third one is a biggie. We set our headquarters in Northeast Washington is sitting on almost 8 acres of land, prime land in Northeast Washington, and we hope to be able to be well on the way of solar energy within 6 months.
Thank you.
Good. Few things, a few thoughts come to this. I hear people say we're going to support the President's plan. I am thinking, how. I'm more into the how, not just, what. And I think one of the things that we'll start, or we're going to continue working on is educating the community and, having an awareness campaign and translate what does it mean 20% CO reduction in 2020 to me and my kids and my, school district and my congregation in the mosque. What does it mean? We're talking about manufacturers or we're talking about individuals. So this kind of translation needs to happen, and we should play a more proactive role in conveying this message. The other thing that I think we should continue working on and continue emphasizing on is the model the success model that we have in the Cultural Center in Boston, to be documented in a way and presented in a way that attracts other centers, Muslim or non-Muslim, because it really doesn't matter. And translated into maybe small piecemeals that an individual can take home. Maybe they can't install solar panels on the roof immediately because it's cost imperative for them, but maybe there are alternative solution. They can change the bulb. They can have programmable thermostat. They have motion detector somewhere in the bathroom, maybe. So there are small steps that can be taken, but it will have a huge impact. And I believe, as mentioned previously, earlier here this morning, we should start bottom up. The change starts from the individual. If they understand the message and they start taking action, we will get to the collective result, the 20% in 2020.
Thank you, Loay. Let's thank the panel.
Thank you again to Jerry for leading that panel, and thank you to all of our panelists. It's really great to hear about tangible examples that people are implementing in their communities and in their congregations, so thanks to everyone for your participation. I can't think of a more appropriate person to conclude today's lineup of speakers. Mike Boots is currently the acting chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality. He has, in this role and in his previous role as chief of staff, been integral in every major environmental decision that this administration has made. And he often serves as a key liaison between all of the various agencies that are working to implement these priorities. He played a major role in developing the President's Climate Action Plan and continues to work with all of the agencies that are, including the Environmental Protection Agency, that are working to enact it. And he is going to conclude today's conversation with a little bit of insight on what he's doing.